Меня зовут Боря, Boris, фамилия Genikhovich. Родился я в 27 году. У мамы было 6 детей.
My name is Boris Genikhovich. I was born in 1927 in the city of Odessa, a Black Sea port of the former Soviet Union. My parents had 6 children, 4 sons and 2 daughters. I was the youngest. My family was a typical working-class family. My father making a living as a manual worker in a factory, and my mother was home looking after the children. Our living standards were not better or worse than any of our neighbours, but only much later I understood that we all lived in extreme poverty. That, however, did not define my recollection of my childhood. I think I had a happy childhood. I had a very loving family and a very happy environment in school, good teachers and loyal friends. As a child, I was not concerned with financial difficulties, especially because other children were in the same boat. Even after my father died in 1939 from cancer, I do not remember having to starve, because 2 of my brothers and sisters were already working and contributing to the family's income. When the war with the Soviet Union started on the 22nd of June 1941, I was 14 years old. My eldest brother Lev was already a professional army officer, commander of a tank division. My second eldest brother, Monya, was immediately conscripted into the Navy, and both of them were fighting from the very first days of the war. My third brother, Grisha, 2 years older than I, was studying at a vocational school. When the war started, the school was evacuated further to the east, as were many industrial plants and factories and facilities were established for producing goods needed to support the army war efforts. Eventually, he was also mobilized into the army. One of my sisters, 18 years older than me, was married and had children. Her husband was also sent to the front. Thus, 4 members of my family were fighting at the front at the same time. Unfortunately, my eldest brothers, Lev and Monya, were killed in the battle for Stalingrad. At the beginning of the war, following the attacks of the German army, a great movement of the escaping population began to the east. Many organizations were evacuating their workers, but generally the people were using any transport available to escape, often under the bombardment of attacking German planes. My family managed to get on the boat named Nogin and traveled on the river Dniester. After that, we hired a horse-driven cart and drove further to the east until we reached some villages in the Rostov region. We stopped there and started to work on a farm. However, the front was approaching and we had to move further to the east. Eventually, we finished up in the city of Tashkent, the capital of the Republic of Uzbekistan in Central Asia. In 1944, when I turned 17, I decided to join the army voluntarily. My mother was in absolute despair over my decision, trying to change my mind. She nearly threw herself under the train when I, together with the other soldiers, left for the front. She reckoned that she had sacrificed enough sons for the defense of the motherland. The war was approaching the end. There was no need to risk my life. However, we were patriots, ready to die for the motherland and Stalin. In 1944, the largest part of the Soviet Union was already liberated, including my hometown Odessa.
Родная земля, где мой друг молодой лежал обжигаемый боем, недаром венок ему свит золотой, и назван мой город героем, и назван мой город героем.
My regiment was sent there and later to the Republic of Moldavia for training. We had to choose a military profession to be trained in. I had decided to become a machine gunner. The reason for my choice was very childish. At one time, we were all crazy about a movie showing the adventures of a Red Army hero, Vasiliy Chapaev. In the movie was another heroic figure of a young girl, Anka, who was a very famous machine gunner, with a no less famous machine gun called Maxim. So I wanted to be like Anka, and this is why I decided to be a machine gunner. I regretted this decision many times, because the gunners are always on the front line and are the first to be killed. After 2 months of training, our regiment was sent to the front. I was fighting in the war until the last day, and finished the war as a commander of a machine gun regiment. In battles with Germany's allies, Romania, Hungary and Austria, I participated in the liberation of Moldavia, Bulgaria and Yugoslavia. The fights in Yugoslavia were especially difficult. I will never forget the city
Мы закончили войну в австрийских
in
Альпах.
Hungary, located on Lake Balaton. We were fighting the Germans there, and the city was changing hands a number of times. When our army was in the city, we opened a hospital, but when the Germans were entering it, we did not have enough time to transport all the wounded soldiers. Before killing them, the Germans tortured them, burned a star on their forehead, and burnt out their eyes with hot pokers. That was happening in February. Lake Balaton was half frozen. In one of the battles, I fell under the water and started to drown. One of my friends, risking his own life, got me out on land and gave me some vodka to drink to bring the body temperature up. I was also fighting as a part of the 66th Army in the Austrian Alps. We entrenched ourselves in the forests, which seemed to be growing straight from the stones of the mountains. The difference was that we were fighting our former compatriots, the army of General Vlasov, consisting of traitors and deserters, who were fighting on Hitler's side and also the side of the army of Bandera, Ukrainian nationalists. They knew they would have no mercy if captured, and we were fighting to the bitter end. I was lying next to my machine gun when a soldier passed me shouting, "The war is ended!" I grabbed his leg and asked, "How do you know?" Moscow transmitted, "I am a radio operator." After the war ended, I still served in the army for another 6 years. I was located in the city of Chernovtsi in the Ukraine. I was awarded many medals and the Order of Glory First Class for bravery in battle. I consider myself a very lucky man. I survived the war when millions of people died. After arriving in Melbourne, I met some of my compatriots, veterans of the Second World War, and we organised an association, which was recognised by the Australian and USSR governments. Since then, we participated in all events dedicated to the memorial, Anzac Day Parade. Members of the association received many medals from the governments. I was 15 years the president of the Association of World War II Veterans from the former Soviet Union. I created with my late wife a very good family.
Главное, у нас была любовь. Это было главное. Мы любили друг друга по-настоящему. У нас любовь.
I have a daughter, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. I am 90 years old, and I am enjoying life in such a paradise country as Australia.